Hey, it's Steve from DoingItLocal.com, and we're here with our first ever talk show. And I have here with me Lenny Grimaldi, everything Bridgeport, only in Bridgeport. We have Derek, which we have a story to tell you about him, and then we got Leo, who is the owner of
New Colony Diner.
New Colony Diner too. And we had some breaking news that happened just a few weeks ago. Tell us about that.
Well, we got a phone call at 6 in the morning saying that the building was on fire behind the diner. So when I got here, I was amazed on what I saw.
And your building was filled with everybody,
Oh, yeah.
all the tenants and stuff like that. And
Everybody who lived in that building was in the diner at 6:15 in the morning.
and it was a complete loss.
Complete loss.
And Mayor Ganim was here with the Red Cross and everybody, and they actually found homes for everybody.
That's great.
Which was an awesome thing. And you also did an awesome thing. You got together with the community and collected items. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when this was all going on, right in the heart of it, I just started thinking, I'm like, what are these people gonna do? And I figured it was the right thing for me to do, being that I've been here for so long and I knew everyone and a lot of people that were in that building. At that point, I felt compelled to step up and start some kind of donation center here.
And you collected how many truckloads?
8 truckloads,
Wow.
not vans, trucks.
Trucks.
Yeah.
So, and that got distributed, that's being distributed to the people now, so that's a great thing.
Yeah.
We have Derek. Derek, we met at a call as well.
Oh, yeah. It was a pretty funny call. It was on Halloween, and I have a ton of costumes. So every year, in my neighborhood, which is Park Avenue, we all dress up and, just hang out.
Yes,
So I got the police called on me because I was in costume on Halloween,
correct.
and I had a sign that said, "We'll work for your soul."
And that's how we met, and we just became friends on Facebook, and as I say, the rest is history. He's here as our guest. Our guests will change from week to week, and I don't want it to have any political bias or anything like that. However, we
Why
will
not? Well, political bias, Leo. I mean, the thing is, this is cool to really share this inaugural stage, a treat, no pun intended, actually, share the stage with Leo, because I dare say more political deals have been cut in this diner over the last 35 to 40 years than any place on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been a few of those deals myself. So this is a very appropriate venue to launch this show. So kudos to Leo. He's got a 40th anniversary coming up, right?
Next year,
This
yeah. 40 years.
Well, there's been like 40 deals cut a week here in politics, so it's not such a bad thing.
Lenny, tell us about what you do, what your past was, and what you're doing today with Only in Bridgeport. What a great name
Thank
for
you.
the website.
Yes, it's kind of apropos, isn't it?
Yes,
In
it
addition
sure
to
is.
stealing all your videos and putting them on my
I
site.
don't mind that
So
at
if
all.
you come to Only in Bridgeport, it's a website devoted to the wacky, unique, interesting world of government and politics. So onlyinbridgeport.com, check it out. Steve and I work really closely together on some stories. So basically what I try to do on my site, I try to put you right inside the mayor's office. I served as an administrative aide, chief of staff to different mayors. My early career was in journalism. Was a reporter for then the Bridgeport Post-Telegram. Got involved in politics. Served as Joe Ganim's campaign manager for a number of years. So Joe and I have a long history together, the good, bad, and ugly of it. And right now it's good to cover Joe. He's in 7 weeks into his mayoralty. He accomplished something that probably no other politician in American politics ever accomplished before. It was an amazing, incredible comeback. He's a relentless retail politician who, he has a talent. It's almost like it's Bill Clinton-esque. When he looks in your eye, he knows how to connect with voters. And he did something that's very, very difficult to do. Bill Finch became the first incumbent mayor in Bridgeport history to lose in a primary. Taking out a well-financed incumbent is a high mountain. And, everything has to break just right. It's just not running a very efficient race and running a powerful retail operation, which Joe's campaign did. That campaign sort of like it took on a life of its own. The amount of people that got involved in that race, but also in the fundraising, because there was a big question, how much money could Joe raise given his past? And, Joe's not only, a hardworking retail politician, but he knows how to dial for dollars as well. So the amount of money that he raised, the amount of new people that he brought to the table on his second chance message was kind of staggering, where in that campaign registered more than 1,000 felons. So he was able to bring people into the campaign process who never had participated before by saying, listen, I'm one of you, you want a second chance, I want a second chance, help me get there.
What do you think was Mayor Finch's undoing?
I think, it's a combination of things. They made the mistake at going after Joe too hard, too fast, too soon. On January 1 of 2015, Joe made his first public apology in an East End church, saying he had broken the public trust. Well, that very next day, Finch's campaign apparatus started their attacks on Joe, and didn't stop. Instead of being dismissive of Joe and really highlighting the positive aspects of Finch's mayoralty, they just constantly run attack mode. And what does this do? It does a couple of things. Guys on a campaign trail, they're easy to figure out, having run races myself. For a guy, you raise my taxes, I punch you in the nose.
Yes, sir.
All right? Women filter information different. They're looking at a number of different things and how they are going to decide whether I'm going to vote for you. And, a number of female voters told me over and over again, why is Bill Finch afraid of Joe Ganim? Because of the constant attacks. And so what it did, it raised questions. And so voters were saying, well, if he's attacking Joe Ganim so much, maybe I should take another look at him. Because he's afraid of something. And he was. Finch was Finch did not want to face Joe Ganim. They're very different animals. Joe is very stoic, he's thoughtful, he's calculating. Bill Finch is more of a policy wonk who has a tendency to puke up what's in his head. Getting to the second point, a big mistake. Here's what you don't do when you're an incumbent mayor. When someone gets shot, when someone gets killed, what you don't do is say crime has never been lower.
Yeah.
So every single time someone got shot in this city, wounded, murdered, whatever it was, a lot of bloodshed, Finch had this tendency to have a knee-jerk reaction, a very defensive reaction, which was to recite crime stats being lower. When people are in pain or when they're suffering, the last thing they want is for their chief executive to say, well, crime's never been lower. They want their chief executive, as mayor, to step up and be a tower of strength in the face of adversity, and he didn't do that. So Bill Finch is talking about crime stats that would be low after someone's been shot. What's Joe Ganim doing? He's doing vigils. And so Joe created that instant contrast with Finch. So, public safety piece of it was huge in Joe's effort to win that primary. It was a close primary. It wasn't going to be easy, but things broke right for them. So there were a series of gaffes that the Finch administration made, and Joe's campaign had to do a number of things just right. And sometimes these campaigns can take on a life of their own, and things had to break correctly for Joe, and they did.
Derek, you're a homeowner. What was his undoing in your eyes?
For me, it's with the big storm. I had a big tree in front of my house, came down on the house. Took, a week and a half before I got power. It took another week before they cut the tree down off of my house. And then I was told at that time that the sidewalk would be repaired. A year later, nothing's done. I got this big root hanging out the side of the side of the sidewalk. So finally, one of my friend's mother, who was actually a city councilwoman, happened to come by because I do puppies, come by to see the puppies, and she's like, what the heck is this? So I explained it to her.
Yeah.
Very next day, she had someone there removing that root, repaving my sidewalk,
Wow.
and getting it done. But at the same time, I'm talking to the mayor's aide every 2 weeks. about getting this done. Finally, I got a guy come out there to assess the situation, and he looked me right in my face and told me that nothing was going to be done because his son has a house in Trumbull. Same situation happened, and they didn't fix his house. They didn't fix his sidewalk, so they're not fixing mine.
But what about special driveways for certain people? That was another issue, wasn't it?
Oh, the airport.
Yes, the airport
Yeah, the
driveway.
airport.
$1 million driveway or something.
Yeah, well, the cost ended up being that, we're talking about a driveway for a connected Bridgeport developer who received, roughly $500,000 in taxpayer money to improve his driveway as part of a airport improvement plan, and it was done very, very quietly, and then when the thing blew up,
Yeah.
The mayor's office said, we don't know anything about this. So, that was, a couple of years ago, that was in the news. Finch it's interesting, Finch had a difficult 2013, his midway point of his second four-year term. He got elected in 2007, re-elected in 2011, but in 2013, you had that major snowstorm.
Yeah, and that.
Where, yes,
I was
certainly
gonna ask
that
about
was
that
historic.
next, yeah.
But you had, Park Avenue to get paid for like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And so.
Park Ave.
And people were really, literally captive in their own home.
I definitely was.
For several days. So that was, that's kind of like, that was an ear-splitting meeting I attended at the city council meeting in response to, people, needed a place to vent about, what went wrong and how to improve that. So,
I was trying to get to that meeting, but I couldn't make it.
well, because your street wasn't plowed
No,
by then.
I actually had to get out with a neighbor and shovel just to get my car to Iraniston so I could get out. And then when I got to park, it was filled, so I just backed back up into my back into my house again.
Leo, you've heard the pulse of this neighborhood, have thousands of people on a weekly basis. What do you think was Finch's undoing?
Well, when we were talking about sidewalks, I personally think I've been a business owner in this city now. We're going on 40 years. I feel like the administration has neglected the people who actually are the glue to the city, which are the small business owners like me. Just as an example, a couple years ago during his term, they had started this project with the sidewalks, starting from the Trumbull Mall all the way down to downtown. It just so happens that the project got stopped right immediately after St. Vincent's Hospital. And this whole time I'm waiting, I said, oh, I can't wait, we're gonna have brand new sidewalks by the diner, by the block, it's gonna be great. And then all of a sudden I realized, wait a second. They completely stopped the project from St. Vincent's to downtown. If you notice, the sidewalks down Main Street are never done.
Right.
So one day, when they had a lunch with the mayor, I decided to go there, and I asked Bill, I waited my turn, and I said, hey, Bill, how you doing? He says, he knew me. Hey, Leo. I said, Bill, can you explain to me what happened with the deal with the sidewalks? How come they were never finished? I've been paying taxes here just as long as anybody else on Main Street.
Right.
And his answer was, we ran out of money for that project. And I said, well, Bill, how is it that there's projects being started all over the city, but how could you not complete Main Street? And after that day, I said to myself, you know what? This guy's gonna fix what he wants to who wants and to whoever he favors. And I just thought to myself at that point, well, this is what happens. I mean, this is the route that they're going with, and I still, to this day, they never finished this job.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what was the pulse with the customers day to day throughout the election time, let's say?
Well, this diner here, I've never put up a sign to pick and choose. We've kind of stayed neutral. So I've pretty much heard every reaction.
There's no fun in that.
Yeah.
Come on. There's no fun of being
There's no
neutral.
fun in that, but I will say that I was pro Ganim. I mean, I was, and some of my personal friends and personal close customers knew that. So, but I heard there was a mixed feelings with a lot of people in here. I mean, I think 90% of the people were looking for a change. It was just time for a change. That's
Leo
the
hits on
pulse.
a really important point where little things mean a lot. It can't be, and who would think sidewalks would be
Right.
an issue for people, but it is.
Yeah.
Sidewalks,
Totally an
those,
issue.
those little, they seem small, but they're really solid bread and butter issues. Just fixing a sidewalk. And so one of the things Joe Ganim did
I was gonna.
was announce, he announced on the campaign a major, a $2 million sidewalk improvement plan. Well, I think he says he's going to implement it as mayor, and he's in the process of doing that, but the sidewalk thing that Leo points out resonates with the average, John Q. citizen in Bridgeport. It's really important.
Sure it is.
A lot of people don't think, well, geez, would a sidewalk matter? But yeah, sidewalks matter, especially in the city.
So that's what it comes down to, is just, I thought it would be taxes, I thought it would be, a lot of.
And you
It's
have
not
issues
rule
as
out
a
taxes.
small business owner.
It's
How
not
many
rule out
small
taxes, but sidewalks are definitely important. I got kids to go to school, walking to school. And, situations like now, it's winter time, it can be icy. Bad enough
Right.
you got to watch out for ice, but you don't want to watch out for a root that's like 3 inches sticking out of a sidewalk that's ready to trip you.
Sure.
Well, when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about the future of Bridgeport, and we're going to have you be our procrastinator or whatever they call that. Our fortune
I'll
teller.
be a prognosticator too.
Yes,
if you
there
want.
you go.
That's whatever you want me to
Easy
do.
for you to say.
I'll be whatever you want.
And we'll talk about that and what we think and what we hope to see, and we'll be back right after this.
At Primary Residential Mortgage, you can purchase a new home with a low interest rate and a small down payment for less than you're paying in rent. Primary Residential Mortgage, the home of the American dream.
State officials urge complete evacuation. Severe flooding is expected.
It's okay. We're ready.
When the things that matter most are on the line, make sure we are too. The storm response team at 1-800-SERVPRO. Like it never even happened.
And we're back, and I thank you for taking the moment to watch those commercials. Those are the people that make this show possible and doing a local possible. So whenever you get a chance, visit our sponsors, let them know. Leo's one of our sponsors, and we thank you for that. And let's talk about the future of Bridgeport. Where are we going with the new chief at helm? Is his past any future, or do you think he's changed?
Joe Ganim?
Yes.
I don't think Joe's going to offend again. Do you want to go through that again? 7 years of your life. I think he's got to be more careful of the smaller things and the bigger ones right now, because, I don't think he's going to offend again. But, as a mayor, you've got to be careful about the people around you.
Right.
You have to put strong people around you. Sometimes when people get involved in government, in politics, they get a taste of power. How do they use that? So that's one of the things that chief executive has to be mindful of, the people that you put into strong decision-making roles. Because a mayor is only as good as the department heads. Joe's a smart negotiator. He knows how to manage a city, but you gotta have strong department heads in there, because every single day when he puts his head down on the pillow, he puts his feet down in the morning to get up. You want to know that your department heads, one, have your back, or doing what's in the best interest of the city. So when you become mayor in Bridgeport, you're inheriting the prior administration's budget. So the Ganim administration has revealed that there is nearly or very close to a $20 million budget deficit that he's in the process of trying to close, with an eye towards submitting his own first budget. Budget year ends June 30th. The new budget begins July 1. That's how the budgeting process works. So they are trying to close that budget gap. When Bill Finch left office on the final day of his mayoralty on November 30th, 2015, he authorized a retroactive pay raise for himself that had a net impact of a couple of $1 million pay raise for himself, and about 100 or so other city employees.
Which costs the city how much?
Well, the price tag the city's putting on it is over a couple of $2 million. Those are retroactive raises that went back to the summer of 2013. So Finch himself walked out the door with a retroactive raise, and it was $17,000.
Nice.
And other rates got, $10,000, $12,000. That's money that wasn't budgeted. According to Ganim's financial advisors, they say that money was not budgeted. So you have to make up for that. You know, and these, you know, the problem with budget deficits, they trigger other items.
Right.
You know, it affects your police department, your fire department, your public works department. Because now Ganim's got to go through all these different departments, see where can I find some savings. So he has not so far, 7 weeks into his mayoralty, not filled a number of the Finch administration jobs that were gone upon Ganim's mayoralty. So he's still in the hiring process, but I think he's taking it slow. Because it's saving taxpayers money to close that budget deficit.
Now, the city council rescinded those raises, is that correct? And now there's talk of
City council,
lawsuits?
correct. City council rescinded that raise for the supervisors union. The supervisors union has gone into court. So we'll see how it plays out.
Guys, what do you think about that? Retroactive pay raises.
Hey, I need a retroactive pay raise.
Hey, it's crazy how someone could get away with doing something like that.
That could have put in a
And-
few sidewalks.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of
Just-
sidewalks, yeah.
Maybe even put up a community
You know,
center.
doing
Yeah.
something like that, it makes you think, why would he do it? And why? And, you know, that just raises red flags. I mean, why on the last day? I mean,
And we know the chief of police got re-signed for another 5 years, and then the retroactive pay raise
Yeah.
and stuff like
That
that.
was a last minute, 5-year,
yeah.
Finch
Last minute.
gave the police chief a new 5-year contract. You know, it's really not so much about Joe Gadet, because, you know, Joe Gadet has his supporters in the community. It's really more like, why don't you let the new mayor pick his own chief?
that's right.
You know, and so I think that was Finch's way of giving Joe Ganim the middle finger going out the door.
Well, I think that was because Finch never thought he would lose.
Right.
You know, and
Good
then
point.
when it came to reality that you're not going to win, or you didn't win, then okay, this is what I'm going to do, because
You think those
it's
were
somewhat
favors?
it was somewhat of a tantrum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
So
just,
do you think it was a tantrum, or you think it's favors being returned, or both?
could have been both.
I think it was maybe one last jab.
Yeah.
You know, it's an interesting point, because I had sources tell me in City Hall that if Finch won re-election, he would not have reappointed Gaudette.
Right.
All right. So
didn't know
I think to go to your tantrum point,
Yeah.
I think it may be more like, I think Bill Finch is having a really difficult time rationalizing that he lost to Joe Ganim.
Right.
And that's, you know, that's part of his legacy, losing
Right.
to Joe. You know, the positive side of Joe is he made this amazing comeback, right? The downside of it is who he beat.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the person he beat, he saddled with that, you know, for a very, very long time. Plus, as I pointed out, you know, Finch became the first incumbent mayor in Bridgeport history to lose in a primary. So that's not, it's not a credential you want to be known for.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even a close race. I mean, you had, what, 7 candidates? You thought it would come down to every vote counts.
Well, the primary
It was a landslide.
No, the primary was close. The general election was not.
Right,
All
that's what I meant, the general election.
The general, what happened was Ganim defeats Finch in a close Democratic primary in September. Bill Finch was trying to land a ballot spot for November, but botched the paperwork.
Right.
So Finch did not have a ballot spot. So a number of the Finch supporters ended up supporting petitioning candidate Mary Jane Foster in the general election. But no, Joe won, he won the general election handily. He got 11,000 votes, Foster got 6,000, and the
You know,
Republican got
It
2,800.
was funny because when she came down to our neighborhood, like, you know, like I said, I live on the south end of Bridgeport, she was pretty much terrified. And I'm laughing at her because I'm like, you're terrified to be in the south end. You need to go to the east side. You know,
Hang out with the local who goes running into anything.
But you know, Ganim, you know, ever since his first terms, you know, which I was here in Bridgeport, he's never been afraid to go anywhere. He's always,
Right.
you could see him anywhere in Bridgeport, and he would stop and he would talk to anyone, you know. Whereas Finch was somewhat of the same, you know, we'll see him on parade day down in my end of the city. But other than that, we didn't really see him too much down there either.
Yeah, it's
You know.
a great point. I mean, Joe could go into the east end of Bridgeport and jump right into a pickup basketball
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, you
Where
can see
Finch
him
shows
everywhere.
up, you know, Bill wants to talk about the juxtaposition of the sun to the solar panels in
Right,
Seaside
right.
Park. And, you know, he had difficulty connecting with regular voters sometimes.
Right.
And it's not to say, I don't want to dismiss that Finch didn't have assets. He did. He had stuff going on in that State Point redevelopment area, but rather focusing on, almost completely the successes of his administration, I think you spent way too much time trying to tear down Joe Ganim.
Yeah. I think that was definitely
Steel Point, if you haven't gone to Bass Pro Shops, go. It's like a little piece of Disney.
Right.
Is it?
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's really cool.
I just had my son's birthday there.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Monday.
And you can spend a couple hours there. It's a lot of fun, and they've got this bowling alley that's in the shape of an aquarium.
Right.
And that's part of the Finch administration. That's a success that they had and should embrace. And Joe, Joe's challenge is to build on it. I think he will. The good news, I think, is David Corris, who's the city's economic development director. Ganim is going to keep him on. And I think that's important transitionally because he's put a lot of work in the last 4 years to teeing up a lot of development projects. So you want to keep that transition going. And he's a professional, he's not a politician. So, hopefully David will be on the job to see them these projects through.
I asked you if he was a change man because you knew him pretty close the first go round. But I asked if he changed because it seemed like a lot of times, like in the middle of festivities of his election or when he got elected and different things where the crowd was excited about, he would stop and pray. Did he find Jesus, do you think?
Yeah, I think to a degree. I think there's a piece of him that has embraced spirituality. Some people aren't buying it, but some people do. And if that's Joe's way of dealing with it, handling it, so be it. I think you talk about being changed. I don't know if it's so much where a person changes. I think it's do you learn from the past?
Mature somewhat.
And understand that you can't go back there again.
Right.
And I think that's an important segue that he's dealing with. So but he's think about the guy. He works 24/7. Here he is right now, on the job. And being mayor I think being mayor of Bridgeport is the toughest political job in the state. You have to deal with so much diversity.
Yeah.
It's the state's largest city, and you're always fighting, scratching, and kicking to get money from Hartford. And you're dealing with issues that a number of chief executives for municipalities in the state don't have to deal with. So it's a really tough job, and it's draining. And that's why it goes back to my point before. The people he puts around him as department head positions have been very, very key to help him get to where he wants to go.
Well, the politics is very important, as we have cited here in the nature of Bridgeport, or any town for that matter. That's why I always plug only in Bridgeport, because
oh, you're the one.
it lets our viewers know what's going on, because we don't really cover politics and Doing It Local. We're basically breaking news. That's all I really have time for. For someone like you to dig in and to, get the real crust of what's happening and get a pulse of what's going on, that's very important for our city. And, I can't cover that. And so, guys, start following him,
Definitely.
Sure.
You have a business and you live in the city, and politicians impact your life. Government officials impact your life.
Right.
And these are the people that set the budget, your tax rate, pick up your garbage, police responsible. Fire safety on your streets, fixing sidewalks. I mean, these are the bread and butter things that impact people's lives on a local level. And you can argue that a mayor has a bigger impact on local lives than the President of the United States because of all the various things that go on.
What do you guys hope to see the Ganim administration do?
Me personally, I would hope to see some things done for our area kids, to stop the violence between what's going on out here. Me growing up, I knew that a lot of things to curb violence meant that you would do other things in the city to promote safety, promote, unity. I'd like to see a community center put on every side of town to give these kids some place to go and do their homework, go play basketball, football, something to keep them away from this gang mentality. I have 2 young kids growing up right now. I have a 16-year-old son and a 10-year-old son, and they pretty much don't go out the house.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah, because I asked them, what can I do for you that will keep you from going into the streets? And both of them love Xbox.
Okay.
So they got Xbox, they have whatever games they want, they have Wi-Fi, and they pretty much come home from school. They both go to magnet schools. They come home from school, they do their homework, and they play Xbox until they go to sleep.
Well, the kids today are a lot more social than we tend to think they are, because they're really online. You see them like that all the time, but they're basically
but they're constantly,
talking to their
they got the
friends.
headsets on, and like I said, my oldest son, he's like, you would think there's 5 people in the room with him.
Because
I'll
there
go-
is, basically.
Yeah, and I'll go in, I'll open the door, and I'll look like, okay, there's nobody here but you. But, he gets good grades, he's very social, he's a very good kid. Both my youngest just received an award from the Rotary Club.
Oh, wow.
For excellence. And they're both well-rounded kids, but I would like to see more kids like my kids.
Send me in that picture of the award, your kid with it. I'd love to
definitely.
promote that. I, love to talk about good things that happen in our community as well. Leo, what do you want to see happen?
I'd like to see the Ganim administration start rebuilding the business aspect in this community. I want to see them start bringing back and bringing in new faces, new companies, to start creating jobs for kids, to get them off the streets, middle-aged people, adults, and get the word of Bridgeport back, so where other people are not threatened to come to the city.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just really putting his foot down and trying to help rebuild this business aspect of this city. This city needs to have a main core of something. Something has to. This city has to get known for something again, and
Right.
I think.
It used to be the High Hole Mall.
Yeah, it needs to have these someone to entice people to come back here and want to build a factory here, and I want them to build a business here, and that will start creating jobs for everybody. And I just think they have to just really concentrate on getting this business aspect started back up again, because a lot of people are leaving.
A lot of jobs are just retail jobs that are paying just around minimum wage or above, just a little bit above. I mean, that's not really going to, help you run a household.
I think that Bass Pro Shop was a great thing. I think now we just have to piggyback off that and just keep going forward, and that it has to just continue moving. And I think Joe has a good vision, and I think he's gonna push forward. He seems like a winner. He wants to win. I think he wants to prove something. So I think piggybacking off that and getting these businesses in the city again,
Right.
and getting all those empty factories back and running, and getting jobs for everybody. That's what I want to see happen.
Even if those factories don't come back up, I mean, find something to do with that property. So it's not so much blight, because it's kind of hard to ride around and look, especially like you go through downtown now. I remember coming to Bridgeport when High Home Mall was
The thing.
Yeah, the thing, and I'm originally from Norwalk, so we had Pathmark Mall. You had like 5 stores and a grocery store, but you would come to Bridgeport and they have tons of stores in it.
South Park.
Yeah, and we thought that we would come to Bridgeport, we were really doing something, and now of course it's done better now. It's a college and so on and so forth, but the rest of downtown is kind of like blah. You ride through, you're like, oh wow, especially if you're not from here.
Yeah.
You ride through
Right.
downtown and you're like, oh wow, this is Bridgeport. Let's get the heck out of here. I-95's that way.
What was it, the abandoned buildings and gas
Yeah,
stations or
yeah.
something that
I mean,
South Park said
the
about
best,
it?
The best thing that they did do is at least let the guys do the murals down there, so it's not so hard to look at. But I mean, there's a lot of places that I see that something can be done with. And I know that if you were to put a campaign together that, the area guys, they're, like right now, wintertime is here, most contractors aren't doing anything, So to go into a building that is not structurally damaged and to refinish it safe, because we're gonna do something here, you can get a bunch of guys to donate the time to do it. I know you can. It's just, I mean, driven the right way, I know
Correct.
you can. It's just a point of we have to rebuild our own city. We have to bring this place back to its heyday, because right now it saddens me. I've been here so many years. I've gone away and I've come back, and
It's a great town. I mean, there's great people.
I would have
here.
never bought a house here if it wasn't.
Right. Sure.
Where I live, I've been down there I've been back in Bridgeport again for 16, 17 years, and we purchased our home there down in Seaside Park. I love my area. I've been there so long. Everybody knows me. I know everybody.
Right.
We have a lot of fun.
Seaside Park's a jewel.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Even I'm sad to see that the Vibes isn't coming back this year, because even then, it was so many different people that was around that, the problem that Bridgeport has is a lot of people from Bridgeport never leave Bridgeport. So, especially the younger guys.
Well, they don't even leave their street. They
Yeah,
only go a couple blocks
so
away.
they don't get to see. I work for Edible Arrangements during the holidays, and a lot of times I'll take one of the guys from the neighborhood to ride with me, because I go deliver in Trumbull, I go deliver in Easton,
Right.
and so on and so forth. So when they go out there, you're 10 minutes out of Bridgeport, and these guys are like, they're
nice.
a million miles away. Oh wow, look at that house, look at that house. I always send one of the kids up to deliver one of the baskets, and they'll ask the person, well, what do you do for a living? I'm a plumber. I'm an electrician.
Yeah.
You're not a basketball star? You're not a football star?
Right.
What do you mean? You're not some, no, I'm just, an average Joe. I just happen to have a nice piece of property. So, what I've noticed is each of those people that I have taken out there, they come back here to the city, and they come back to the neighborhood, and these kids, first thing they do, they want to get a job. They want to do something because they want to be like the guy they seen out in Trumbull, instead of the guy that they see on the neighborhood.
And right down the street from them at Bullard Havens, they could be learning those trades
That's
that
where my
are
son
affording
goes.
those nice houses.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's where my
there you
son
go.
goes.
What's he taking up?
My son is taking up computer graphics.
Okay. So there's always a future for
Well,
that.
he wants to be a video game designer. That's been his dream since he was about 6 years old. And I figured,
That's
what? You may not be
great
you
goal.
may not be a video game designer, but you'll know about computers. You'll know how to do graphic arts. You'll know how to do certain things that you can use that are marketable for you.
6 months to a year, what does Joe need to do?
I think, well, first of all, he's got to figure out the budget situation. He's got an issue in the police department that he needs to address. You've had a lot of retirements in the police
A
department.
lot.
Cops retiring or cops leaving to take better offers in the suburbs. He's pledged to bring on 100 new cops, down to maybe about 350 or 360 police officers, where authorized strength is upwards maybe 430 or 440. So he needs to resolve that situation. You were talking about cleaning up blighted areas. I just popped a story before starting here about the potential for a high-profile development on the east side, a new train station. That was started under the Finch administration. David Corris, the economic development director, has been working on. The city's already secured over $10 million from state and federal funds for a second train station on the east side of Barnum Avenue. And the city is in the process of retaining title to 11 acres on Barnum Avenue. That's adjacent to where they want to put that proposed train station.
Oh, wow.
And it involves a number of buildings, some of them that have come down, but to have 16 acres adjacent to where they want to put the
On
the
top
train-
of what? On top of the land where they want to put
Yeah,
the
so it's, because it's important to have the ancillary development along with the primary train station. So the city just...
Remember, Fairfield put in their new train
Yeah.
station, and that's underdeveloped with
Right.
business. So.
Yeah,
That
so
could mean a big
yeah,
development there.
that is important to have those pieces assembled publicly next to that train station so they can expand it and
Right.
build upon that. So the city council soon is going to be voting on that arrangement. There's a developer, Sal DiNardo, who had an LLC called Remgrit that owned those buildings
Right.
on Barnum Avenue.
Lots of fires there.
Yeah, lots of fires, abandoned buildings. Some of them have been taken down by DiNardo himself. But he structured with the city a tax agreement where he would turn over 11 of 16 acres to the city as a complement to that East Side train station, which is going to take probably $100 million.
But there were back taxes involved.
Yeah, back taxes were involved. City sued Remgrit, the LLC that was controlling those properties. He filed a bankruptcy claim. Spin-off of that is they went into court and came to this agreement where the city would take 11 of those 16 acres.
Right.
So moving forward, what else does he need to do? Just in the next year?
Police department, budget. I think what Joe has to do is, the mayor has to be the city's chief cheerleader.
Right.
That's the single most important thing he can do. And right now he's putting out a lot of fires governmentally. At some point, he's got to get out there. He's got to get in front of stakeholders, decision makers, business executives, and go on a tour and tell people this is why Bridgeport is a good place to do business. I mean, he did that his first term as mayor, first tenure, and he was good at building relationships. I mean, under Ganim's watch this first time around, there was a ballpark. You know, the 10,000-seat arena, Housatonic Community College downtown, State Police Barracks was relocated from Westport,
Right.
to downtown Bridgeport. When Ganim was mayor his first time around, inner cities were a war zone for crime.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
you had the barriers.
I mean, you had between 1992, 1991, and 1995, on average, you had a murder a week. You had 50 to 60 murders a year. It got better. And crime, violent crime did spike this year, but yeah, it is correct that overall crime has come down. And so, but back then, today, I mean, this year you might have, in 2015, you might have had, just to compare, maybe 18 or 20 murders or something like that, compared to
The 87 that we had.
Yeah, you had one year you hit 70 or closer to 80. Back, they're talking over 20, 25 years ago. So he's got to, piggybacking on what you said about development-wise, get out there, get in front of people, and sell the assets of the city.
That's right.
And that's chiefly what a mayor has to do. And so I think at some point soon, he's going to get out there and start doing that and saying, we got some, because Bridgeport has some good pieces. It got Long Island Sound, proximity between New York and Boston.
University of Bridgeport.
Housatonic Community College. You've got Sacred Heart University proper is located in Fairfield, but a piece of Sacred Heart is located in Bridgeport.
Right.
So you've got that, and
And
they're
the dorms.
exploding. Their dorms are there,
Oh, yeah,
and they're
definitely.
exploding over there. So, one of Finch's failures as mayor was his myopic viewpoint towards the University of Bridgeport. He didn't embrace it.
He didn't like
No.
it. Yeah.
He had this grudge against UB, and he never went there. You got so much brain power down there.
UB is.
So you can have the brain power of the South End. And University of Bridgeport, it's an interesting campus right along Seaside Park
Right.
where you live over there. And it's growing.
Oh, definitely.
I mean-
They just put up a new building.
Yeah.
They took down the old one and
They imploded it, right?
Yeah, that was crazy. Only problem with that is that we got the mice problem now because all the
What's
mice
that?
came.
Who
and
knew?
And they're taking down Marina Village at the same time. So
They couldn't relocate them.
So leveraging the brain power of UB is important for the city.
brings my property value up.
Well, that's good, yeah. I mean, high tide raises all ships, right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm happy.
well, enough about that. We're going to move into, after this break, politics, the political correctness in this world, and what else we have to offer than just politics of Bridgeport. We'll be right back after this. Okay, we're back, and we're here to talk about political correctness in our area. And I look at Derek because of him getting the cops called on him for a stupid thing. But tell me, is this stupid, or is this ridiculous, or politically correct? Our friends at the Valley Indy Sentinel had wrote an article about a couple days ago about a 15-year-old in the Ansonia school system who is now under watch by the NSA because he jokingly, I know, because I have a 14-year-old and she got in trouble over stupid political correct stuff, but that's a totally different topic. And that's in Fairfield. But anyways, this 15-year-old in Ansonia had gotten in trouble because he jokingly said during the Pledge of Allegiance, instead of I pledge allegiance to the flag, he said I pledge allegiance to ISIS. And the school authorities turned him into the NSA. He's been checked out by them and investigated. And is that, what do you think? Is that overreaching? Is that being overly cautious? Because they always use the term an abundance of precaution, and we're hearing that a lot nowadays. Thoughts, guys?
I think everybody's afraid with this ISIS situation. You know, you can only remember September 11th. September 11th. It's always drilled into our heads. I think one of the biggest problems that we're having now is that we are a little oversensitive. I think that we as a whole are afraid of these people, these groups of people that mean us harm. You know, the bad part is we don't know who we're looking for.
But if the kid built a clock,
Yeah.
quote unquote,
Yeah.
he'd be in the White House right now, right?
Right.
So that's what I'm referring to as political correctness. What is political correctness? Is that what this is, or is this overly cautious, or what do you guys think?
I don't think there was an overreaction to this. I mean, from reading the story, I mean, the kid wasn't charged, right? I mean, I think you have to look at this stuff, and of course, how do you react to it in the bigger picture? Do they overreact in the bigger picture? I don't think so.
So kids today, they can't do stupid stuff. I mean, that's basically what this comes down to. But with social media and everything the way it is today,
the scary part is if he really meant it. You know what I mean? You can't just
It makes you wonder.
throw it out because you never know.
You got a 15-year-old kid saying ISIS. Maybe it's talked about at his house.
Right.
That's why people
Yeah,
take
you
it to
do
the
have-
next level. But what's a 15-year-old talking about this for? Maybe there comes a point where, this conversation came up in their family, and maybe he's just repeating something.
But don't you think it was crazy that you got the cops called on you because you were in a Halloween costume? I mean, you don't get any more simpler than that.
Right,
On
right,
Halloween
right.
Day, I could see if you walked
that was
into
the
a
part.
bank.
Right, that was the part that was kind of funny because that's like like arresting the Easter Bunny on Easter delivering Easter eggs.
That's right.
It's kind of funny. I mean, it's a touch and go situation. We do have to watch, what's being said by the youth. We do have to pay attention to what's going on. Thank goodness the guy wasn't, the kid wasn't arrested and detained. Then it would have definitely been going overboard. But I guess you do have to check it out because nowadays you don't know, who's doing what and what they're involved in. And, social media is so broad that, you could talk to someone on the other side of the world, just like,
Correct.
just like they're across the street.
Right.
Like I said, when my son first started playing his Xbox, and he was asking me, Dad, I want to go online. I was kind of leery with it because 47 years old. This online stuff is all new to me, but this is something that he's known most of his life. And the funniest thing is that when his online privileges were about to be done because there was a 3-month deal, this guy from London sent him a card. And I'm like, London? Who the heck do you know in London? Oh, I play online. I play games with them online. And I was telling him that my time was up. And he sent me another 3-month subscription. I was like, what?
Well, my son, our camera operator here, Alex, he went to England to be with somebody he met online in one of those gaming rooms.
Right.
And it was just like, to my wife and I, we were just like, okay, do we send this, he was of age, but do we send him across the ocean to meet somebody that says they're, friend or something, so there's always that scariness as a parent, no matter how you look at it and, such. So, that's always a challenge though.
Right. Because, like I said, we have to keep our eye, we have to let go and hold on at the same time, we have to pay attention to what they're doing. But at the same time, I think we have to be a little bit more open to the world that they're in. because it's a lot different than the world that we all grew up in.
Correct, right. So, but every stupid thing you do is
Yeah,
all over the
now
place
it's,
now.
yeah, well, that's the social media side of it. It's,
Right.
it's broadcast so vastly, so quickly. Before, you hear about it in the neighborhood and you may never hear about it anywhere else in the world. But now something that can happen in your four corners can go millions
Right.
of miles away in 10 minutes,
It's spontaneous,
Yeah, yeah,
So
you know.
yeah, absolutely. So that's what's interesting about this site, and what I think is what made Doing It Local so popular is that our commentary, and that's what made me decide to try to start this show up and such, because it's all about conversation and what people think and such. So when we talk about different topics, this will be a whole segment show of about an hour, and then I'm going to break it down into segments, the 4 segments. And, write down below what your comments are, what you think, what do you think of political correctness? Are we too far? Is it the new norm? What do you think? So let us know what you think. What do you think about the new changes at the DMV? Speaking of craziness.
That was quick.
Yeah.
In a word, a nightmare, right? It
Yeah.
has been a nightmare the last year for the Commissioner Andres Ayala, who just resigned.
Was he a scapegoat, or what do you think?
No, I don't think he was a scapegoat. He's the leader. He was the commissioner that Governor Malloy put in place, and they had a lot of issues there, a lot of long lines and short tempers.
Very much.
And so he resigned after just a little bit over a year. Andres Ayala was a Bridgeport school teacher. Got elected to the city council, was city council president. Got elected to the state house, and then in 2012 won a close race in a primary for state senate. Got reelected. He was an early supporter of Dan Malloy for governor. And the governor wanted to put a Latino into a high-profile commissionership position, and that's what he did. He wanted to, he wanted his commissioners to be more reflective of the diversity of the state. So he appointed Ayala to serve as commissioner of the State Department of Motor Vehicles. It didn't work out.
Right. So, but I mean, we had some crazy stories. My son himself, he's just trying to get his learner's permit, and that was a nightmare. You come in and you got to bring in 2 pieces of mail with your address on it,
Right.
your passport, United States federal government document is not valid
Right.
as proof of
Of being
being a citizen of the United States. It doesn't say that I live, in Fairfield in this particular address. You had to bring 2 pieces of mail, and then you had to bring your birth certificate. And if you didn't have everything precisely right, you get a
Yeah, and
new
cops are
appointment.
pulling people over and looking at the paperwork, and there was a disconnect,
Right.
a computer glitch, and
Right.
it was a
happened to us.
nightmare for people.
What happened to you?
It happened to my wife. Our insurance didn't, I guess you have to re-register something with the insurance. The DMV didn't know about it. It took 2 months. She got pulled over. I had to pay the $200 fine. I mean, it's I've heard it 100 times in the diner.
Did you go through the reimbursal procedure?
Yeah, we're actually still in it. But I think this whole DMV thing, I think it's a lot more than Mr. Ayala. I think we all know by going to DMV for the last 20 years. If 20 years ago you waited 2 hours in there,
You're gonna wait
20
2
years
hours
later
now.
you're still waiting 20 hours in there. So I think it goes further than him. I think that whole DMV has to get really reevaluated.
Do you think it should be
because-
revamped? From the
I
ground
think it
up?
should be
Listen,
restructured.
it's just imagine if they had that place running the right way. I don't know anything about it, but if they had it running the right way, could imagine how many more people they can service.
Well, Leo, it's a good point. I think
know?
Malloy's going to have to put a manager in there.
Yeah,
With strong managerial skills.
Sure.
It's been the prevailing attitude is, they make you feel like they're doing you a favor walking into the DMV.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Every person
So,
behind that desk is a god
you-
and a
you
goddess.
figure-
How many people would want that job?
Oh man, I've
Yeah.
tried so many times.
So it's a change in attitude as well, public service.
It doesn't make any sense. 20 years ago, you waited 2 hours, and you're still waiting 2 hours. So where is the progression? There's no progression there.
And that's something that affects so many people. It
Yeah.
touches so many lives.
Who
day
wants to
day.
go there? Nobody wants to go there.
Yeah. So
You have to go to DMV.
I don't.
You want to
no,
go there?
No.
You have to go there an hour before it opens to get in the line. It's a nightmare. been a nightmare, and it's going to be a nightmare until it gets really reevaluated.
Well, the state's got their share of problems as well, and that's another topic that we were going to talk about today, but I think we're going to have to wrap it up because we're running out of time.
All right.
But this is awesome. I think this was a great start to our first show. I know our 10th show will be so much more different than today. I have other plans, other ideas, and this is an ongoing, evolving thing, and if you have constructive criticism or ideas or things, or if you'd like to be part of our panel, because I don't want it to be the same people, I want it to be changing. I don't even want to be the same person. I want different people.
Forget the
different
constructive
ideas.
criticism. Be PC. Do whatever you want. Not politically correct stuff.
So, make sure you make comments below. Like us, because that's how Facebook knows
Yeah, we're doing
to bring us to the top. So a lot of times people say, I don't see your posts. Well, if you don't like the post, it's the algorithm that Facebook has and stuff like that. You can always follow us directly on DoingItLocal.com. It's a it is a website. Yeah, believe that or not, DoingItLocal.com is a website. But people always seem surprised when I say that. And you will get, it's mobile ready. You could just go right to it, see what you hear sirens, go right on Doing It Local, you get the idea of what's going on. We'll tell you what's happening as it's happening, and just keep the conversation going below. Tell us what you think on these different topics. For DoingItLocal.com, I'm Steve Krawczyk, Lenny, and
Leo,
Thank you.
Derek.
Derek. Thank you so much for your time. We'll see you next week.